Good morning. Today is December the 28th, 2020. A new week has started, a week where I'm not going to produce an Ars Boni interview. I'm taking a break in this week and next week. The next interview is scheduled for the 5th of January with Martin Kocher, who is an expert in economics in this country. I'm taking this break because I want to reflect a little bit more about this format and what it means to me and what it means to us and my institution. Let me share, if you agree, some of my provisional thoughts on this in this moment. I'm taking this video on a day which is very important for two reasons for this country and the continent. On the one hand, Austria has started to vaccinate people yesterday. Many people think that this is a very positive news leading to a development which might finally bring us into the position to win against this pandemic. On the other hand, there are also more and more news and rumors that a new and more aggressive form of the virus has started to spread also in Europe, which will make it more difficult to fight against this pandemic in the next weeks. Whereas the first news is probably a very positive one, the second one is probably a very negative one. And again, we are now in a situation of uncertainty and fear and doubt. And this is probably a very typical moment, therefore, for this whole year. I have been working on my personal dealing with this crisis in Ars Boni now for 9 months. 9 months that were very intense. We have more than 100 videos taken in this time, and many of you have seen, hopefully, at least some of them. So you know what I'm doing there and how I'm trying to get a little bit more of orientation about the situation. And I would like to share, I think, 5 main lessons I learned so far in this crisis, in these many interviews. The first lesson, obviously, is that the role of universities is changing. When I'm taking this video, Austria is again in a hard lockdown. It's the 3rd lockdown now. It's very unclear how long this one will last and whether it will be the last one. What is already very clear is that again in January, students will not be able to return to campus. And again in January, students will have to do their exams remotely. And not only the students, also obviously the professors and the teachers will need to teach remotely and will need to take exams remotely. And this brings a lot of challenges and a lot of difficult situations to the staff, but also, and obviously also to the students, because this is nothing we were prepared for. University is very different now, and it has been very different now for the last 9 months. We can, of course, complain about this, and many people rightfully complain about this, but we can also take this, in my view at least, as a huge opportunity. It gives us really the opportunity and the need to think about what university in the 21st century really means and how we can interact with our students, how we can interact with our fellow colleagues, and how we can interact with the society as a whole. I think universities are really in focus now because we have, on the one hand, a huge obligation to deal with our main target group, which is the students. But on the other hand, we obviously also have a huge need of the society to share our knowledge with them, because the knowledge and the expertise of independent academic experts is probably one of the very few stable components in this whole mess of crisis. We can and we need to rely on this independent expertise more intensely. And universities as a whole, as an institution, and me as a person working in such an institution for most parts of my life, we really need to consider as a group all together with our students what this really means for us. And I'm very much looking forward to discuss this with some of my guests and with you as my audience in the next year. The second point now as a lawyer is, I think what is also very clear in this crisis is that from a legal perspective, it is obviously, at least in such a crisis, not sufficient to rely on the legal information only when assessing such a situation. So the old Roman saying, da mihi factum dabu tibi jus, So somebody needs to give the lawyer the facts, and then the lawyer develops the legal situation out of this, is no longer the right way to do this, because of course we need to rely on the facts, but we can't take them as granted, as taken from, or taken from somebody who's completely independent from the legal system. Producing the facts is already part of the legal solution making, and we as the lawyers need to be much more interested in how these facts are developed, who is telling us those facts, who is choosing them, and in how far is this whole process transparent. Transparency is certainly one of the key needs we need here, and I'm very much looking forward how this transparency purpose and goal will be implemented into the legal debate in the next year. The third point I take with me in this is the traditional way of dealing with the balance of powers in a state. So we have the government here, we have the parliament there, and we have a constitutional court assessing what the parliament and the government are doing, is very much under pressure in such a situation. It is probably one of the legal fields I would really invest a lot more of research into, how in particular the government being in the need to decide very quickly, but not necessarily representing the country or the legislator as a whole, and in particular being intrinsically motivated at all given possibilities not to take care of all those minorities who need our protection in a constitutional scenario, how these governments can be brought under control. I think this is one of the things lawyers, in particular public lawyers, need to think about in the next years to come much more intensely than we did before this crisis. The same is also very much true for my fourth point, which is who are the experts and what exactly is the role of experts in the legal system when dealing with our complex world, and who is choosing those experts, and what exactly can universities contribute into this feed of experts and expert opinions into the public debate. I think we have seen, and we are still seeing it right in this moment today when I'm taking this video, that for a typical lawyer such as me, or perhaps such as you, not being an expert in virology or in epidemiology or philosophy or ethics or whatsoever, it is very, very difficult to assess the impact of any given legal measure on your on the society as a whole. And we need all those experts working together in groups that are properly organized and that are transparent. And this is clearly and deeply lacking, because neither do we have those groups, nor do we really know how they are, who decides on how they of whom they consist of, and what exactly their role is. So the third mission of university personnel and of academics certainly will also become much more important than it has been so far. And finally, my fifth lesson is the proportionality principle. Is the key term, and is the most complex and darkest and most difficult to understand principle in the legal system. And we really need to think about what does proportionality and proportionality of measures mean in such a crisis, and how can we find the right way to really put this on the table in the proper sense, that a measure that needs to be taken is proportionate. I will invest a lot of time of my thinking, but hopefully also in this channel here, to consider more about what exactly proportionality in such a difficult environment means. I do wish all of you a very, very happy and much less complex new year. May it be a year full of success, full of joy, and full of pleasure, be it academic or personal. Take care, and before all, stay healthy or become healthy quickly. I really wish you all the best for 2021. Kind regards, and hope to see you soon then in 2021.